The twin suns of Kepler 442b hung low in the sky, their golden light spilling across the crystal towers of Valora City. The buildings were alive, grown from the ground over centuries, each one humming faintly with the resonance of the planet's quantum crystals. For 10,000 years, the Valeri had known only peace. They lived in harmony with their world, sharing thoughts and feelings through their telepathic link, a chorus of minds bound together by empathy. But today, that chorus trembled with fear. Ambassador Nalthara pressed her pale blue hands against the crystal window of the council chamber. Her silver eyes reflected the growing darkness above. Enemy ships, hundreds of them, slid across the sky like jagged shadows, blocking the twin suns. Each vessel was massive, shaped like an insect carapace covered in black spikes. The Zephyrian Empire had arrived. Elder Corain stood behind her, his voice low but shaking. "They will be here soon. Our cities will burn before the day ends." Through the telepathic bond, Nalthara could feel his fear ripple outward, feeding the terror already spreading across the planet. 10 billion Valeri, bound together in one great mind, trembled as one. The Zephyrians had no empathy. They were predators, giant mantis-like creatures with black compound eyes and forearms ending in razor claws. They had conquered dozens of worlds in the last century, stripping them bare, enslaving or exterminating every species they found. Kepler 442b was next. Nalthara closed her eyes, forcing calm into her heart. The Valeri had no weapons. They had never built an army. They created music, art, poetry, and love. Now those things would be torn from them. She turned to the living crystal console at the chamber's center. Its surface pulsed softly as if it sensed her desperation. She placed her hands on it, and the quantum network tingled to life, linking to her mind. "What are you doing?" Elder Corain asked. "Calling for help," she whispered. "The Galactic Council has already refused us. No one will risk war with the Zephyrians. Who else is there?" Nalthara's hands trembled as she typed coordinates into the console. "I don't know, but someone must hear us." She began recording her message. Her voice was steady, though her heart broke with every word. "This is Ambassador Nalthara of the Valeri Council on Kepler 442b. Our world is under attack by the Zephyrian Empire. We are a peaceful people with no weapons and no army. They will kill us all and take our planet for its quantum crystals. We have hours, maybe less. If anyone can hear this message, please help us. We have children who wish to see the stars, artists who create beauty, lovers who dream of tomorrow. Please don't let us die alone." She sent the signal racing across the galaxy, carried faster than light to every known system and many unknown. Most would ignore it. Some might grieve but do nothing. But perhaps, just perhaps, someone would care. Far away, across the black ocean of space, a human sat in his command chair aboard the Earth Defense Force ship New Frontier. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking bitter coffee from a metal mug, scanning mining reports, when his communications officer spoke. "Captain, I'm receiving a distress signal from the Kepler system." Jake frowned, put it on speakers. The bridge grew silent as Nalthara's voice filled the air. The words were translated into English by the ship's computer, but the raw emotion carried through untouched, fear, desperation, and the thin, trembling thread of hope. When the message ended, no one spoke for several seconds. Commander Ben Clark, Jake's first officer, finally broke the silence. "The Kepler system is 72 hours away at maximum burn. By the time we arrive, it will be over." Jake set down his mug, his gut twisted. He thought of his father, who died defending a civilian transport from pirates, of his grandfather who had fought on Mars during the rebellion, of his great-grandfather who had stormed the beaches of Normandy centuries ago. All of them had faced impossible odds. All of them had fought anyway. He looked around the bridge at his crew, 200 men and women who had signed up to patrol the dangerous edges of human space. They weren't a battleship. They weren't even built for war. But something inside Jake refused to stay silent. "Helm," he said at last, his voice hard. "Plot a course for Kepler 442b maximum burn. I want us there in 60 hours, not 72. Ensign Tom Hayes, his young tactical officer, looked at him in disbelief. "Sir, pushing the engines that hard could tear them apart." "Then we fix them when we get there," Jake replied. He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we have an alien species under attack and we're requesting immediate backup, a full battle fleet if possible." The crew stirred with nervous energy. They all knew what this meant. Jake straightened his shoulders, staring out into the stars. Somewhere out there, 10 billion peaceful aliens were about to die. They had sent their plea into the darkness. And humanity had heard. For the first time in galactic history, the Zephyrian Empire was about to learn what happened when humans answered a call for help. But in the White House on Earth, deep underground in the Situation Room, President Elena Martinez listened to the same distress call. A glowing map of the galaxy hovered before her, a single blue dot blinking desperately where Kepler 442b lay. "Admiral Peterson," she said, her voice cold steel, "how long to get a battle fleet there?" 70 hours minimum, replied the head of Earth's Space Navy. His expression was grim. "But, Madam President, this could start a war we're not ready for." Elena looked around the room at her generals and advisors. She thought of her father, who died defending Mars, her grandfather, who fought to keep Earth free. Every other civilization in the galaxy had abandoned the Valari, but humanity would not. "Then it's settled," she said. "Mobilize the fleet. This is Operation Starfall. We launch within 6 hours." The room exploded into action. Officers shouted orders. Screens lit up with ship deployments. Humanity had just declared war on the most feared empire in the galaxy. And the clock was ticking. The new frontier shuddered as her engines roared past their safety limits. The vibrations rattled through every corridor, a constant reminder to the crew that they were flying too fast, too far on too little. In the command chair, Captain Jake Morrison leaned forward, hands gripping the armrests. His eyes never left the star map glowing on the central display. Kepler 442b pulsed like a fragile beacon, still distant, still under siege. "Status?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, his communications officer, tapped her console. Her voice was sharp, efficient, but beneath it Jake caught the edge of excitement. "Signal received from Fleet Command. They're mobilizing, sir. Operation Starfall has been authorized. First wave of ships launching within 4 hours. Full battle fleet expected within 12. A murmur rippled through the bridge crew. Hope fragile and dangerous. Commander Ben Clark, Jake's first officer, cleared his throat. "Sir, even at maximum burn will still arrive 12 hours before the fleet. Alone." Jake knew it already. Knew the odds. His ship wasn't built for war. She was a patrol vessel, fast, reliable, armed with a few railguns and missile pods, but nothing compared to a Zephyrian battleship. Against hundreds of them, the new frontier was an ant stepping into a hurricane. But he also remembered the voice in the distress call. The trembling words, "We have children who wish to see the stars. Please don't let us die alone." He looked at his crew, their faces pale but determined. "Then we hold the line," he said simply. "We buy the Valari every second we can until the fleet arrives." The room fell silent. No one argued. On Kepler 442b, Ambassador Nalthara stood in the underground crystal shelter, her people huddled around her. The Valari's once glistening city above them burned. Towers that had sung with light for centuries now lay shattered, black smoke rising into the alien sky. The Zephyrian landing ships descended like a plague of locusts, darkening the sun. Their soldiers, towering insectoid warriors in jagged black armor, marched through the streets. Red energy bolts cut down anyone who fled. Through the telepathic bond, Nalthara felt her people's agony as if it were her own. Millions of voices screaming in terror, a chorus of despair that pressed like iron against her chest. "Ambassador," said Elder Corin, his crystal crown dim with grief, "they are everywhere. There is no escape." Nalthara's hands shook as she touched the wall of the crystal cave, feeling the faint pulse of her world's heart. "Someone has heard us," she whispered. "I know it." But even as she said it, she felt doubt gnawing at her mind. What if no one came? What if the stars were silent? Above, another tower collapsed with a sound like thunder. Earth's response. At the Luna shipyards, Captain Michelle Ross strode through the cavernous hangars of her assault carrier, Liberty's Edge. Around her, thousands of crew rushed to load fighters, supplies, and weapons. Michelle's voice carried over the noise. "Move like your lives depend on it, because they do." Her XO, Commander Rick Hayes, jogged at her side, datapad in hand. "Reports confirm the Zephyrians are using standard invasion procedure, orbital bombardment followed by mass troop landings. Their goal is total eradication of the Valari." Michelle's jaw tightened. She had grown up fighting her way through the slums of New York where gangs preyed on the weak. She knew bullies when she saw them, and the Zapirians were the worst kind. "Not this time," she muttered. All across the solar system, similar scenes unfolded. Battleships loaded their railguns with tungsten slugs. Marines boarded transports. Medics stocked alien physiology kits. Humanity was going to war. The longest 60 hours. Aboard the New Frontier, the crew settled into the rhythm of dread. They ran drills, checked weapons, reinforced bulkheads that rattled under the stress of their engines. Every man and woman knew they might be walking into death. In the mess hall, young Ensign Tom Hayes sat hunched over a tray of cold food, staring at nothing. Sergeant Danny Cooper, a Marine with a grin that rarely faded, slid onto the bench across from him. "You look like someone stole your dog," Cooper said. Tom managed a weak smile. "I signed up to chase pirates, not throw myself against an empire. We're one ship, Danny, one. What are we supposed to do against hundreds?" Cooper leaned in, his grin fatting just a little. "You ever hear of Thermopylae? 300 Spartans stood against an army of thousands, bought time for their people. They didn't win, but they changed history." Tom frowned. "Are you saying we're supposed to die?" "No," Cooper said, his grin returning. "I'm saying if we do our job right, maybe somebody else gets to live." Kepler's surface. The Zephyrian forces pressed deeper into Valora City. Streets once filled with music and laughter now echoed with the hiss of energy weapons. Crystal towers cracked and fell like glass. In the underground shelter, Nalthara closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. She tried to steady her people, to calm the rising tide of fear. But then, faintly, she felt something new, distant, strange, but alive. A human voice. Not words, not yet, but a pulse of determination burning like fire. Her eyes flew open. "They are coming," she whispered. "The humans are coming." Elder Corain stared at her. "Humans, a death world species, they will never arrive in time." Nalthara placed a trembling hand against the crystal wall. For the first time since the invasion began, a fragile spark of hope stirred within her. The edge of the system. 60 hours later, the New Frontier dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. The ship's hull groaned, battered by the punishing burn, but she held together. On the view screen, the twin suns of Kepler blazed, and around the blue-green jewel of Kepler 442b hung a nightmare. "Contacts, hundreds of them," Amy whispered. The Zephyrian fleet filled the void, towering warships, dark and jagged, encircling the planet like vultures. Orbital fire rained down, flashes of light carving scars across the surface. Jake Morrison stood slowly, the weight of the sight pressing down on him. "My gods," he muttered. For a moment, the bridge was silent, every crew member staring in horror at the impossible task before them. Then Jake straightened. "Helm, bring us in. Tactical, load every missile we have. If we're going down swinging." The New Frontier accelerated toward the swarm of alien warships, one fragile vessel against an empire. The New Frontier surged into the gravity well of Kepler 442b, her hull groaning in protest. Alarms wailed across the bridge, red lights pulsing. Every officer was at their station, hands moving with urgent precision. "Enemy ships locking weapons," reported Ensign Tom Hayes, his voice tight. "At least 20 of them breaking formation to intercept us." Captain Jake Morrison's eyes locked on the view screen. The Zephyrian ships moved like predators, jagged black silhouettes, their hulls bristling with spines. The fleet dwarfed his vessel, every ship larger, stronger, and built for one purpose: conquest. "Sir," Commander Ben Clark said softly, "one ship against that." Jake clenched his jaw. "Then let's make them believe there are 10 of us. Tactical, prepare decoy drones, launch on my mark." "Aye, sir," Hayes said, though his hands shook. The bridge held its breath as the alien vessels closed in. A predator's approach. In the flagship of the Zephyrian Vanguard, High General Krexar leaned forward, his compound eyes glinting. The strange vessel hurtling toward them was small, unimpressive. Yet it came without hesitation, charging directly into a swarm of predators. "Human ship," one of his officers hissed. "Designation confirmed by our intelligence, a species not yet encountered in battle." Krexar clicked his mandibles in amusement. "They are fools, flying alone into the maw of the swarm. Crush them. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who answer Valeri cries. The trap. On the new frontier, the crew braced as the enemy closed to weapons range. Missile locks incoming, Hayes shouted. Launch decoys, Jake ordered. Small pods shot from the new frontier's flanks, scattering in a wide arc. The decoys pulsed with energy signatures mimicking the human vessel. A dozen alien missiles swerved off course, detonating harmlessly against empty space. Railguns fire, Jake barked. The new frontier's forward batteries spat slugs of tungsten, accelerated to near light speed. They struck the lead Zephyrian ship in a burst of fire and twisted metal. The alien vessel reeled, armor shattered. Direct hit, Hayes shouted. The bridge erupted with cheers, brief and sharp. But then 10 more alien ships surged forward, their weapons charging. Sir, they're adapting, Clark warned. They won't fall for the same trick twice. Jake's hands gripped the armrest tighter. Then we hit them harder. On the surface, deep beneath Valora City, Ambassador Nalthara felt it. Through the telepathic link binding the Valeri, a pulse of shock rippled outward. Above them, something had struck the invaders, something unexpected. She pressed her hand against the crystal wall, silver eyes wide. They're here, she whispered. The humans are truly here. But even as hope flickered, dread followed. One fragile ship against an empire, what could they possibly do? David versus Goliath. On the bridge of the new frontier, alarms screamed as the enemy closed. Energy bolts flashed across the void, hammering the human vessel's shields. The ship shook violently. Sparks rained from a ruptured console. Shields at 60%, Hayes shouted. Helm evasive pattern Delta, Jake commanded. The new frontier twisted and spun, her smaller frame weaving through the storm of fire. Missiles streaked past, detonating close enough to rattle teeth. Target their engines, Jake ordered. Make them bleed speed. The railguns thundered again, slamming into another alien ship's propulsion system. Flames erupted from its rear as it spun out of formation. Another hit, Amy Rodriguez cried from communications. Captain, the Valeri on the surface. They're broadcasting signals. I think they know we're here. Jake allowed himself the smallest nod. Good, let them know they're not alone. Krexar's fury. High General Krexar's mandibles clacked in rage as he watched 2 of his ships crippled by the lone human vessel. It was impossible. No prey species had ever dared attack them, let alone drawn blood. Focus fire, Krexar roared. Tear them apart. The swarm shifted, dozens of ships angling toward the human intruder. Energy weapons lit the darkness, a storm of fire converging on one fragile target. The breaking point. The new frontier bucked violently as the barrage slammed into her hull. Warning klaxons howled. A console exploded, knocking an officer from his chair. Shields down to 20%, Hayes cried. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 6. Seal the compartments, Jake shouted. Damage reports flooded in, each one worse than the last. The ship wasn't built for this. She wasn't a battleship, she was a patrol craft, fragile against the endless tide. Clark leaned toward Jake, his voice urgent. Captain, if we stay here, we're finished. Jake stared at the viewscreen. He saw the planet below burning. He heard Nalthara's voice in his memory. Please don't let us die alone. His decision was instant. We hold, as long as it takes. If we go down showing them what humans are made of. A spark of hope. On the planet's surface, Valeri civilians huddled in the crystal shelters. Fear and despair flooded their shared link, until suddenly a new emotion cut through. Defiance. The humans were fighting, one ship against 100, and still they resisted. The Valeri felt it ripple through their bond like wildfire, a fragile spark of courage. Children pressed close to their parents, whispering the new word they had just learned through translation relays. Humans. The knife's edge. On the new frontier, Jake braced as another impact shook the ship. Flames erupted from the rear console. A Marine rushed to smother the fire. Engineering reports reactor strain, Amy shouted. We can't keep this up. Jake's jaw tightened. He looked at the swarm closing in, the sheer weight of numbers. They were a storm, and he was a lone ship standing against it. But then the comms crackled. Captain, Amy said, her eyes widening. I'm receiving a signal. It's Fleet Command. Reinforcements are en route, ETA 48 hours. The bridge went silent. 48 hours. They only had to hold for 48 hours. Jake exhaled slowly, his chest tight. 48 hours against an empire, God help us. He looked at his crew, exhausted, terrified, but burning with the same stubborn fire he felt. Then we hold for 48 hours, he said firmly. We make the Zapirians regret ever hearing of humanity. The bridge roared with determination, voices rising above the alarms. The new frontier groaned as another blast rocked her hull. The bridge shuddered, panels sparking, smoke filling the air. Yet somehow, impossibly, she still held the line. Shields are gone, Ensign Hayes shouted. We're running on armor alone. Captain Jake Morrison's jaw tightened. Then let's make every plate of that armor count. Fire railguns full spread, aim for their command clusters. The ship spat tungsten slugs across the void. One alien frigate erupted in a fireball, scattering molten shards into the dark. Another reeled, its spine snapped by the impact. The crew cheered, but Jake's eyes stayed cold. For every ship they crippled, 10 more filled the void. Commander Ben Clark leaned closer. Sir, we can't last like this. We need to buy time another way. Jake's gaze drifted to the planet below, scarred by fire and smoke. He thought of the Valeri's cry for help, of children huddled in crystal shelters. Then we take the fight to the ground, he said. The drop. The order swept through the new frontier like electricity. Marines scrambled to drop bays, their powered armor gleaming under emergency lights. Weapons were checked, grenades loaded, helmets sealed. In Bay 2, Sergeant Danny Cooper adjusted his squad's gear with a grin that masked the weight in his chest. Listen up, we're dropping into hell itself. Alien bugs are tearing this world apart, but we're going to show them how humans fight. A young private, Jenny Davis, barely 19, raised her hand. Sergeant, what if there are too many? Cooper looked at her, eyes hard but steady. Then we make sure every one of them knows our names before we go down. Got it. Jenny swallowed, then nodded. Around her, the squad thumped fists against armor. Fear still lingered, but so did something stronger, defiance. Drop in 30 seconds, the pilot called. The doors of the bay yawned open, revealing the burning world below. Firestorms raged across Valora City. Alien landing craft littered the streets. The air shimmered with plasma fire. Cooper slammed his visor down. Let's show these bastards what Earth sends when people cry for help. Go. The pods released, streaking toward the planet like meteors. Valora's streets. Ambassador Nalthara stumbled through the underground tunnels, guiding refugees deeper into the crystal shelters. The walls pulsed faintly with resonance, as if the planet itself shared their pain. Above, the sound of alien weapons thundered, red energy bolts cracking the sky, crystal towers shattering. Elder Corin clutched her arm. It is over, Nalthara. The Zapirians will kill us all. But then the earth shook, not with bombardment, but with impact. She turned, eyes wide, as streaks of fire cut across the sky. Pods, dozens of them. Not Zapirians, she whispered. Something else. The first clash. Sergeant Cooper's pod slammed into the ground, crushing a Zapirian soldier beneath it. The doors blew open, smoke clearing to reveal chaos. Alien warriors turned, their compound eyes gleaming. Their armor was black, their claws like scythes. Marines out, Cooper roared. The humans surged into the streets, rifles blazing. Explosive rounds tore through alien armor, shredding chitin and plating. A Zapirian fell in pieces, its screech echoing off the crystal walls. Private Jenny Davis stumbled as she fired, her rifle bucking in her hands. A giant insectoid charged, claws raised to cleave her in half, until Corporal Lisa White tackled it from the side, stabbing her combat knife between its armored plates. The alien shrieked and collapsed, twitching. Jenny gasped, then found her footing. She aimed again, this time steady, and dropped another soldier with a clean burst. Good girl, White shouted. Keep it up. The Marines pushed forward, carving a bloody path through the alien ranks. The Valeri witness. From the shelter entrance, Nalthara and a group of Valeri children peeked into the ruined streets. They had seen the Zapirians slaughter their people without mercy. But now something new had arrived. Strange armored warriors, small compared to the insectoids, but fast, fierce, relentless. They fought like fire given flesh, adapting with every move. Nalthara felt the telepathic bond of her people surge. Hope, wild, unfamiliar, spread like lightning. One of the children whispered, their silver eyes wide. They came. Yes, Nalthara said softly, tears stinging her eyes. The humans came. The counterattack. High General Krexar's mandibles clacked in fury as reports flooded in. Ground forces engaged. Unknown species detected, humans. Krexar's claws tore into the command console, sparks flying. How dare they deploy heavy walkers, crush them beneath our true strength? Moments later, the streets of Valora trembled as massive six-legged machines lumbered forward, each 30 feet tall, bristling with cannons. Their legs smashed through crystal towers, their guns spitting fire. Walkers incoming, Cooper barked, heavy armor. The Marines scrambled for cover as the machines unleashed storms of plasma. Streets melted, crystal shattered, bodies scattered. Private Davis crouched behind rubble, heart hammering. Her rifle rounds pinged uselessly off the walker's armor. They're too strong, she cried. Not if we fight smart, Cooper growled. We're humans, we make our own odds. He tapped his comm. Command, we need air support now. In the sky. Above, Captain Tony Garcia led a squadron of human fighters, weaving through alien interceptors. His voice crackled over the comms. Copy that, ground team. Air cover inbound. Mark your targets. On the surface, Cooper lit up the walker with a targeting beacon. Painted, take the shot. Garcia's fighter Dove, missiles streaking downward. They slammed into the walker's core, detonating in a thunderous fireball. The machine staggered, then collapsed in a heap of twisted metal. Cheers erupted from the Marines. But then 3 more walkers emerged from the smoke. Here comes round 2, Cooper muttered grimly. A human stand. As the walkers advanced, the Marines braced. Every instinct screamed to run, but running wasn't in their blood. Jenny Davis gritted her teeth, clutching her last grenade. Around her, the Valeri children huddled in fear. If I run, they die. She rose from cover, sprinting straight at the nearest walker. Plasma bolts scorched the ground around her. She leapt, hurling the grenade into an exposed vent. The explosion ripped through the machine's core, flames belching outward. The walker collapsed in a thunderous crash. Jenny hit the ground hard, ears ringing. She looked up, expecting death, but instead saw Valeri children staring at her in awe. One whispered through the telepathic bond, a thought that echoed in every Valeri mind. She fights for us. And with those words, the Valeri's fear shifted into something new, resolve. The air in the docking bay turned heavy, filled with the electric hum of alien power. The steel deck trembled under the weight of the monster that had stepped forward. High General Krexar was no ordinary Zephyrian. His chitin gleamed like obsidian, his armored frame towering over the humans. His claws were longer than swords, dripping with venom. His black compound eyes reflected the humans like tiny insects trapped in glass. The Valeri leaders shrank back in terror. Their telepathic link carried a single wave of dread. This was the Butcher of 50 Worlds, the one whose name they whispered only in fear. Jake Morrison's mouth went dry, but he raised his rifle. "Stay behind us," he ordered the Valeri. His voice was steady, but his pulse pounded like a war drum. Krexar's mandibles clicked. His voice was like grinding steel. "You dared aboard my ship to free my prey, you tiny, fragile things." He spread his claws, every movement brimming with predatory confidence. "I will enjoy showing your species its place." Jake locked eyes with him. "We don't kneel." Then the bay erupted into violence. The general's fury. Krexar lunged like a storm. His claws scythed through the air, faster than Jake thought possible for something so massive. Turner's seals opened fire, explosive rounds hammering into the alien's chest. The bullets sparked off his armor like rain against stone. Krexar struck, his claws ripping through the deck. A seal was too slow. One swipe split him in two, blood spraying across the bay. "Spread out," Turner roared. The humans scattered, circling the giant. Rifles barked. Explosions lit the shadows. Amy ducked behind a console, her fingers flying across the panel to open the secondary bay doors. Jake fired controlled bursts, aiming for the gaps in the armor, joints, neck, mandibles. The rounds left scars, but not enough. Krexar roared, his screech rattling their bones. He leapt across the deck with terrifying speed, his claws slashing, sending sparks flying as they ripped through steel walls. "Captain," Turner shouted, tossing Jake a magnetic charge. "Stick it to his chest." Jake caught it, heart hammering. He rolled under a claw strike, the metal shrieking inches from his head. The smell of venom filled the air. He surged up, slamming the charge onto Krexar's thorax. The general screeched. His claws lashed out. Jake flew across the deck, smashing into a bulkhead. His vision went white, lungs screaming for air. The charge detonated. Fire and smoke engulfed Krexar's chest. His armor cracked, black ichor oozing. But he was still standing. Still fighting. The telepathic edge. Nalthara, her silver eyes blazing, grabbed Jake's arm as he staggered up. "Link with us. Let us fight with you." Jake gasped, "Do it." The Valeri formed a circle, their crystal crowns glowing. A surge of energy slammed into Jake's mind, images, instincts, shared senses. His world sharpened. He could feel the timing of Krexar's strikes, the tremor of his footfalls, the faint hesitation before each lunge. "Now," Jake roared. The seals moved with impossible coordination, flowing as one mind. Bullets struck joints at the exact moment claws swung wide. Turner vaulted over the alien's arm, slamming a blade into a seam in the armor. Another seal dove low, firing rounds into Krexar's exposed abdomen. The general staggered, ichor spraying the deck. His screech shook the bay, but for the first time he looked uncertain. "You're not fighting just humans," Jake snarled, lifting his rifle. "You're fighting us." He fired into Krexar's cracked chest. The general howled, staggering back into the shadows. But he didn't fall. Instead, Krexar lunged at Jake, faster than ever. The claws came down like guillotines. Groundside inferno. While the boarding party fought for their lives, the war raged on the planet below. Colonel Sam Washington crouched behind the shattered remains of a crystal tower. Around him, his Marines fought tooth and nail against elite Zephyrian reinforcements. The city burned, smoke choking the skis. "Walker tanks moving in from the east," Sergeant Danny Cooper shouted over comms. 30 feet tall, loaded with plasma cannons. Washington swore, "Bring in the rocket teams, flank left, draw their fire." Private Jenny Davis, armor scorched and rifle half-empty, dragged a Valeri child into cover. The little girl clung to her, sobbing. Jenny's arms trembled with exhaustion, but her voice stayed calm. "Stay with me, kid. We'll get you out." Above, human fighters streaked across the sky, weaving through alien interceptors. Captain Tony Garcia's voice cut through the comms. "Fox 3, bandits down, keep the bugs busy, we're giving you cover." Washington glanced up just in time to see a Zephyrian destroyer explode in orbit, torn apart by the Constitution's railguns. Debris rained across the atmosphere like burning meteors. "Marines," Washington roared, "push forward. If we break their armor line, the civilians get clear." His men surged, powered armor clanking, weapons blazing. Humanity's fury pushed them through. But even as they advanced, a shadow fell across the battlefield, massive dropships descending, disgorging more alien troops, tens of thousands. Washington's chest tightened. "Command," he said over the comms, "we're holding but barely. We need that fleet to finish their job, or none of us make it." Back on the flagship, Krexar's claws slammed down. Jake rolled, barely escaping as sparks lit the deck. The Valeri's telepathic link screamed in his mind, "Left, dodge now, strike at the joint." He obeyed without thought, weaving through death. His rifle barked, rounds striking cracks in the general's armor. Turner launched himself from above, driving a combat knife into Krexar's neck joint. Black ichor sprayed, sizzling like acid. Krexar screeched and backhanded Turner across the bay, slamming him into a wall. His armor dented with a sickening crunch. "Chief," Jake shouted. Turner coughed blood but raised a thumbs up. "Finish it, Captain." Amy's voice cut through, panicked. "Jake, more hostiles inbound, hundreds heading for this bay." Krexar staggered, ichor dripping. His armor burned and cracked, but his eyes burned brighter with rage. He straightened, towering over Jake. "You are strong," he hissed, "but strength is nothing before the swarm." Jake leveled his rifle, chest heaving. "Maybe, but humanity doesn't quit, not today." The bay doors groaned open, revealing a swarm of Zephyrian soldiers pouring in like a tide of black chitin and claws. The docking bay thundered with the sound of claws on steel. Zephyrian soldiers swarmed through the open doors, their black armor glinting in the dim light. Hundreds of them, mandibles clacking, weapons raised. And at their head, bleeding but unbowed, loomed High General Krexar. His armor cracked, ichor dripping, yet his massive claws still gleamed with murderous intent. His black eyes locked onto Jake Morrison with pure hatred. Jake's chest heaved, sweat stinging his eyes. His rifle felt impossibly small in his hands, but he stood firm, feet planted, back straight. The Valeri pressed behind him, their telepathic connection flooding his mind with their fear, their hope. This was it. The end, or something else entirely. "Hold the line." "Captain," Turner rasped from where he slumped against the wall, armor dented and bleeding. "Get them out. Forget me, finish the mission." Jake turned his head, meeting the SEAL's fierce gaze. "Not leaving anyone behind, that's not who we are." Amy's voice trembled but held steady as she called from the console. "Jake, the secondary bay doors are unlocked. I can get us out, but only if we buy time." Krexar raised his claws, mandibles spreading wide in a predatory grin. "Your time is already over." The Valeri's crystal crowns blazed brighter, their shared bond pulsing into the humans. Jake felt it, clarity, focus, unity. His heartbeat slowed, fear drowned out by something deeper. Humanity's stubborn refusal to surrender. Jake lifted his rifle. "Then let's show him what humans do when time runs out." He pulled the trigger. Storm of steel. The bay erupted into chaos. The SEALs opened fire, explosive rounds hammering the first wave of Zephyrian soldiers. The Valeri projected waves of psychic dissonance, staggering the swarm just long enough for bullets to land true. Jake moved through the storm, guided by instinct and the meld. Every motion felt preordained. Duck left, fire twice. Roll right, knife the joint. His body obeyed before he thought, the Valeri's awareness flowing through him like a second sight. Turner, broken but unyielding, dragged himself upright and unleashed a torrent of covering fire. "Come on, you alien bastards," he bellowed, voice hoarse but defiant. "You're not taking them alive." Amy, teeth gritted, wrenched a console free, sparks flying. She redirected power to the bay's emergency systems, slamming bulkhead doors shut behind the swarming aliens. Dozens were crushed in the seal, ichor spraying across the deck. But still they came. The duel. Krexar crashed through the carnage, roaring like a storm. He lunged for Jake, claws slicing the air. Jake dodged, barely, one strike tore through his shoulder armor, hot pain ripping across his body. He stumbled back, rifle clattering away. The general loomed, claws raised for the killing blow. "This is your end, human." Jake's eyes burned. "No, this is yours." He dove under the swing, drawing his combat knife. In one desperate surge, he drove the blade into the crack Turner had opened earlier, between armor plates at the general's neck. Krexar howled, ichor spraying like acid. His claws flailed, smashing consoles, sparks raining down. Jake clung on, forcing the blade deeper. "For every child you killed, for every world you burned, this ends now." The Valeri's bond surged, amplifying his strength. His knife slid home, severing alien tendons, piercing vital tissue. Krexar staggered, claws raking wildly. He crashed against the bay wall, ichor flooding the deck. His roar shook the ship, then died in a wet gurgle. The general collapsed with a thunderous crash. The most feared warrior in the galaxy lay still. Shockwave. The Zephyrian soldiers froze. Their hive mind link rippled with confusion, disbelief. Their leader, invincible, unstoppable, was dead. Turner saw the hesitation and roared, "Now hit them hard." The humans surged. Gunfire and grenades ripped through the alien ranks. The Valeri projected waves of fear and despair back into their enemy, turning their hive unity against them. The swarm broke, some fled, others collapsed under human fire. Amy slammed the final command into the console. "Bay doors open, shuttles prepped, go, go, go." Jake staggered toward the Valeri leaders, blood soaking his armor. "Move, everyone aboard now." Turner shoved the wounded into the shuttle, covering the rear with a smoking rifle. "Come on, Captain." Jake glanced back at Krexar's corpse. The general's lifeless eyes stared into nothing. For the first time, the galaxy's most feared conqueror looked small. Jake spat blood and climbed into the shuttle. "Punch it." Amy slammed the controls. Engines roared. The shuttle tore free of the bay, weaving through fire as the flagship shuddered and burned behind them. A world saved. On the planet below, Colonel Washington was pinned behind rubble, Marines firing until their barrels glowed red. The city shook under alien bombardment. Then the sky lit up. The Zephyrian flagship exploded, a blinding sun tearing across the heavens. Its shockwave rippled through the alien fleet, scattering ships in chaos. Washington rose, eyes wide. That wasn't us. Above, human railguns and missiles hammered the disoriented enemy. Fighters carved through the broken formations. The swarm collapsed, retreating in panic. Marines and Valeri civilians lifted their heads as the sky cleared. For the first time in 12 hours of hell, hope surged through their hearts. Washington's comm crackled. Admiral Peterson's voice, calm and fierce. All units press the attack, drive them out of orbit, make them remember today. The tide had turned. Aftermath. Hours later, the battlefield was silent except for the sounds of rebuilding. Human medics treated Valeri children, their strong hands careful and gentle. Marines hauled rubble, helping civilians uncover their buried crystal homes. In the crystal garden at the city's heart, Ambassador Nalthara stood before Jake Morrison. Her crown was cracked, but her voice was steady. When we sent our cry for help, we thought no one would come. We thought the stars were silent. But you came, you bled for us, you fought for us. Why? Jake, bandaged and limping, met her gaze. Because when someone calls for help, you answer. That's what it means to be human. She touched her crystal crown, eyes glistening. Then the galaxy will remember your people not as conquerors, but as protectors. Behind them, Turner leaned against a wall, grinning despite his wounds. Hell of a first impression we made. Amy smirked. Yeah, saved the galaxy, broke the rules, almost died, just another Tuesday. Washington approached, armor scorched. Orders from command, Captain. We're staying, building defenses. If the Zephyrians come back, they'll find us waiting. Jake nodded slowly. He looked out across the shattered but living city, the twin suns shining bright again. We came here as strangers, he said quietly, but now we're family. Epilogue, the promise. Far across the galaxy, whispers spread. The Zephyrian Empire had been defeated, their greatest general slain. And a new species had risen, a dangerous species from a death world called Earth, a species that fought like demons, but only when the innocent cried for help. The story passed from refugee to refugee, from world to world. When the helpless call into the dark, they whispered, the humans come running. And so humanity's legend was born. Operation Starfall was over, but the galaxy would never be the same.